Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
Today, we're going to be looking at something pretty interesting. Um, how do entrepreneurs succeed
Right.
in places where there's a lot of
Yeah.
social division?
Yeah, social and political division.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Really into
Like where it's a major part of the landscape.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
and it's about more than just networking, right?
Right.
It's about really understanding
Yeah.
those fault lines.
The lay of the land.
Yeah, and making them work for you.
Right.
And the deep dive today is going to take us right to the heart of it.
Okay.
To Kenya's
Go on.
rapidly growing ICT sector after a major political shift called devolution.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Kenya is a great example, I think, of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Over 40 different ethnic communities.
Right.
All kind of navigating this like sudden shift
Yeah.
from a centralized government to 47 newly empowered counties.
That's a big change.
Yeah. So for entrepreneurs
Yeah.
who are used to just
One set of rules.
one set of rules, right?
Right.
This must have been just a huge
A real earthquake.
earthquake. Yeah, like just a
Yeah.
complete shift in.
Absolutely. The goal of devolution was to bring government closer to the people,
Yeah.
improve local services.
Mm-hmm.
But, the research you're looking at today
Yeah.
really highlights how it also intensified competition for resources,
Mhm.
with ethnic tensions becoming even more pronounced.
I see.
Yeah.
So they had all these potential clients.
Exactly. So instead of one central government to deal with,
Right.
entrepreneurs now had 47 potential clients.
47.
Each with its own priorities and often
my
its
God.
own tribal biases.
Yeah, I was reading one entrepreneur's account,
Oh, really?
and he described
Yeah.
certain counties as like
Oh,
tribal cocoons.
what an image.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really highlights the challenge of breaking through
Right.
when ethnic identity is like the dominant.
absolutely. It really captures the essence of what they were up against.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough to just have a great product anymore.
All right.
They had to become experts in social dynamics, too.
That's it.
And what the research revealed was fascinating.
Yeah.
These entrepreneurs
Okay.
developed these almost counterintuitive strategies to either leverage or transcend those tribal divisions.
Okay.
The researchers called them asserting and transcending ethnic homophily.
Okay. Ethnic homophily. Let's define that for our listeners.
Absolutely.
Because it's so central to this whole
Mhm.
discussion.
Essentially, homophily just means love of the same.
Okay.
It's that natural human tendency to gravitate towards people who are like us.
Right.
And in the Kenyan context, that often meant sticking with your own tribe.
Sticking with your own tribe.
Yeah.
So asserting ethnic homophily
Mm-hmm.
is intentionally
Yeah.
playing up those tribal connections
Oh.
when you need to.
And they did this in some pretty ingenious ways.
Like what?
One tactic was subtly signaling shared tribal roots.
Okay.
By mentioning your birthplace during a meeting.
Oh.
It was a way of establishing common ground quickly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me that these entrepreneurs weren't necessarily from
Right.
the counties they were targeting.
That's right. They were mostly based in Nairobi.
They were mostly based in Nairobi.
So they were really having to learn the nuances
Wow.
of each county's tribal makeup.
Yeah. So they're
Almost like chameleons.
wow.
Some even went as far as learning a few key phrases
Oh wow.
in the local language,
Right.
even if they weren't fluent.
Wow.
It was a sign of respect, a way of saying, I'm making an effort to understand you.
Right.
Yeah.
Like people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in this case, demonstrating that you understood their culture
Yeah.
was a powerful way to build trust. Yeah. And sometimes it wasn't just about individual entrepreneurs asserting their own tribal links.
Right.
They formed these fascinating multi-tribal consortia, basically teaming up with people from different tribes
Okay.
to show a united front when bidding for contracts.
So they were turning potential rivals.
Exactly. It's a really smart way to navigate a landscape
Yeah.
where tribal affiliations hold so much sway.
So smart.
Yeah. One entrepreneur described it as a way to win over rivals by turning them into partners.
Oh wow.
It diffused suspicion
Yeah.
and showed that they were focused on shared goals,
Right.
not just tribal interests.
Not just tribal interests. Okay, so that's asserting ethnic homophily,
Mm-hmm.
but what about transcending it?
Right.
That sounds like the opposite approach.
It is. And what's so interesting is that these entrepreneurs were skilled at both.
Uh-huh.
They could adapt depending on the situation.
Wow.
Sometimes they found it was more effective to downplay ethnic differences altogether.
So how did they do that?
Yeah. One simple but effective tactic was just using first names.
Oh.
Surnames in Kenya often reveal your tribe, so sticking to first names helped to level the playing field.
I see.
It shifted the focus away from those tribal labels.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like deliberately creating this kind of blind audition.
Exactly. Judging the person solely on their merits,
Right.
not on their tribal background.
Yeah. And another tactic was just to skip the small talk.
Right. Especially the kind that often veered into tribal territory.
Right. Right.
Get straight down to business.
So instead of trying to establish common ground through the tribal affiliations, they're just demonstrating their value through competence and efficiency.
Exactly. They would highlight impressive certifications, partnerships, anything that signaled expertise and professionalism.
Oh, I see.
It was a way of saying my skills speak for themselves.
Right.
Regardless of my tribe.
Regardless of tribe. Yeah.
And it worked.
Were there any particularly striking examples of this?
Yeah, one entrepreneur bypassed tribal biases by partnering with a prestigious business school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the school had a reputation for neutrality, so it acted as a kind of trust broker.
That's really clever.
It is. It's a great example of thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all about formal credentials.
Okay.
They also tapped into something much more universal.
Okay.
Shared interests.
Shared interests. Okay. I'm intrigued. What are we talking about here?
We're talking about everything from sports and parenting to faith and even karaoke.
Karaoke.
Yeah, it sounds trivial.
Yeah.
But these shared passions help to create genuine connections
Right.
that went beyond tribal lines.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's funny how something as simple as karaoke can create that bond.
Absolutely. It reminds us that we're all human at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
One entrepreneur even managed to secure a major contract by leveraging his church network.
Wow.
He built trust through that shared faith community, and it ultimately opened doors that might otherwise have remained closed.
It's powerful.
It is.
The common ground exists everywhere if we look for it.
That brings us to something truly fascinating the researchers observed.
Okay.
It wasn't just about strategy or tactics. The entrepreneurs who were most successful at bridging these divides all shared a very specific life experience.
Yep. I'm all ears. This is where we get to the real secret sauce.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
It turned out that every single one of the entrepreneurs in the study were in intertribal marriages.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about a crash course in navigating cultural differences.
Right. That makes so much sense.
Right. They had to learn to bridge those divides in their personal lives long before they ever faced them in the business world.
One entrepreneur even described how his mixed ethnicity family made him realize how pointless it was to take sides in any tribal conflict. And it gave him this incredible perspective that he then applied to his business.
Precisely. And it wasn't just marriage.
Okay.
Many of them had also grown up in cosmopolitan environments, attending diverse schools.
I see.
This early exposure to different cultures helped them to develop a more nuanced, inclusive worldview.
So it's like they developed this diversity muscle that they could then flex in different situations.
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests that maybe our personal lives are the best training ground for navigating the complexities of a diverse world.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
About how our own, upbringings and experiences shape
how we see the world.
Yeah, how we see the world and how we interact with people who are different from us.
Yeah, it raises the question, how much of our ability to bridge divides is learned?
Right.
And how much is influenced by our lived experiences?
So let's bring this back to our listener.
Sure.
We've been talking about how Kenyan entrepreneurs sort of navigated this world where tribal ties were incredibly important.
Incredibly important.
And they used these really fascinating strategies to both assert and transcend those divisions.
And what's remarkable is they weren't just winning contracts.
Right.
They were building genuine relationships and fostering trust in a really complex social environment.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we can apply to other contexts.
Yeah.
Obviously, most of us aren't dealing with this level of ethnic fractionalization, but we all encounter these divisions.
And biases.
Yeah, biases.
Them in our own lives.
In our own lives, yeah. So
just think about it this way.
Yeah.
What if we thought of those divisions as fault lines? in our social landscape, whether it's political differences, cultural clashes, or even just personality conflicts.
Yeah.
How do we navigate those moments where our tribe feels threatened?
Right.
Do we instinctively circle the wagons, or do we try to build bridges?
And maybe the key takeaway here is that we need to be able to do both.
Absolutely. There are times when asserting our shared identity is important.
Right.
It can create a sense of belonging and solidarity.
Exactly. But there's also times when we need to, move beyond those labels.
Right.
And focus on shared goals and values.
Shared goals and values, exactly.
And that requires a conscious effort to see the person. Not just the
stereotype.
Yeah, the stereotype.
And maybe it starts with being more aware of our own biases.
Right.
Asking ourselves, why am I reacting this way?
Yeah.
Is it based on genuine information or just preconceived notions?
And then, taking those small, deliberate steps.
Absolutely.
To connect with people who are different from us.
It could be as simple as striking up a conversation with a colleague from a different department.
Right.
Or joining a club that exposes you to new perspectives.
It's like we're building our own diversity muscle.
Exactly. That ability to navigate difference with confidence and empathy.
And that's a muscle worth strengthening.
Absolutely, a muscle worth strengthening, because in an increasingly interconnected world, our ability to bridge divides might be the most valuable skill we possess.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive.
It has.
I think we've learned a lot today.
A lot to think about.
And to our listener, we want to leave you with this final thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
In your own life, what are your most effective strategies for connecting with people who are different from you?
That's a good one.
And are there any lessons from these Kenyan entrepreneurs that you can apply to your own social landscape?
Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.
Catch you next time.